If these trends didn't exist, what would I be doing right now? What you just end up having is a cabinet full of products and no real impact in your life. And lately on social media, we see many trends where people are being more authentic with their audience. For example, the de-influencing trend. In this trend, influencers talk about products that they wouldn't advise us to buy, which is actually the opposite of what they usually do. And now they are being more honest with products that they do actually think are really good. This trend has been popping up on TikTok. If you haven't seen it, then look up the hashtag de-influencing and you will find many videos of this trend. It had me thinking, is authenticity becoming the norm now on social media? Overall, people telling us to be more authentic is a positive thing. However, it had me thinking, why is that the case? And why is it that we wait for trends to come up to tell us that we should be more authentic and honest for us to incorporate this in our lives? Hey there everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Aisha and now is the perfect time for you to go and hit that subscribe button. So I will give you some seconds to do so. So in this video, I want to talk about the topic of finding authenticity in a world full of influence. Let's talk about the latter part for a bit and the world full of influence. Throughout our lives, we are influenced by external forces. From the moment that we are born, in the process of us growing up, we are influenced by our parents, which teach us which behaviors are good, which behaviors are bad. When we go to school, there's a teacher that's telling you, hey, you're not doing good, or hey, you're doing great. And from all of these things, we are taught like what behaviors are acceptable, yes or no. In this world, we also spend so much time online that it's inevitable that we are being influenced by someone, whether it's an influencer or whether it's your friends that you see going to this restaurant. There is no way to avoid getting influenced. There's always someone telling us to buy something. There's always someone telling us to do something for our self-development. There is always one action that someone is advising us to do to make our lives better. And because as human beings, we always want to be better and we want to improve ourselves, we easily consume this content. Let's take a look at a very concrete example in which we could tell that people were getting influenced to do something. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement. When the Black Lives Matter movement came up, a lot of people that previously were not really vocal about racial issues became vocal about it. And this was the first time that I consciously thought about the fact that a lot of things that are happening online, people sometimes feel like almost scrutinized if they don't express an opinion, that they just do it because they want to avoid the negative consequence of it. On TikTok, there's also a huge community of people that express their style, and then all of a sudden this becomes kind of a box or a name, like the Belaycore trend or the Gorpcore trend, and then we consume that content and we also start to incorporate this way of dressing into our style, and it transformed from whatever it was before to being defined in this very concrete box that someone presented for us. Overall on the internet, there is this huge pressure to be aesthetically pleasing. To whatever you do, it needs to fit within an aesthetic. Like the word aesthetic is just the word of the century. I mean, I love the word aesthetic, but I also do recognize that constantly expressing things in like aesthetics is also just, it's not normal. But the main thing for me is the fact that, look, influencers, this is their job. They have a lot of time on their hands. They have time to take out that camera, to put it in that tripod, to take a million pictures. They work with brands that send them products where they're taking pictures in it. So they have the time to curate content for us, and we are the consumers of that. However, at some point, we start to think that this is like real life, and we also try to keep up with that pace of consumption, whereas first of all, they are not really consuming that much. They get sent things for free, or they're paid to do these advertisements, and we see that and we try to like keep up with it. So I think that's like one of the big problems, the fact that we mistakenly see what influencers do and we just translate it directly to our real life without taking into consideration that these people actually have that amount of time towards creating this content and just like making it look very specific. In addition to that, when something becomes trending online, a lot of times we mindlessly adopt it without actually considering our own expression. And then what happens is that a lot of times when something becomes trending online, we don't really think about what problems do we want to solve in our lives or what do we need in our lives, but we just try to put ourselves into this consumerist box. If you think about the dead girl trend, for example, a lot of us just started to buy this journal, we started to buy these water bottles that look like that, and then what happens is because these trends are happening so much, what you just end up having is a cabinet full of products and no real impact in your life. And now you're just like putting yourself in all of these different trends instead of really thinking about who you are as a person and what you need into your lives. So I want to talk a bit more about where does it come from that we are so heavily influenced, not only online, but also like the socialization process that I was mentioning before. And then I want to talk about approaches that you can take in your life to be more authentic. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the socialization process. This is more related to our personality and who we are. And even then, with our personality, we aren't truly ourselves. I don't know how your upbringing was, but most of us don't necessarily experience our upbringing in which our parents treat us like a rough diamond that just needs to get discovered. It's actually the opposite way. They are constantly telling us this is not good, you should not do this. Like a lot of times the dreams that we have, like if you think about when you were a kid, you just wanted to make your parents proud. So then they say, oh, I want my daughter to be a doctor, and you just mindlessly adopt that because you're like, this is what I have to do to make my parents proud. As we grow older, though, our personality starts to form, and then we truly kind of discover, is this really what I want to do? Is this not what I want to do? And these are more the conscious things. So much of how we are socialized or brought up remains unconscious. It remains deep into the core of who we are and how we present ourselves to the world. And also, like, if we think about our personality, like, what is it that we actually gain from this trend? Something becomes trendy for 3 to 5 months, you adopt it, you do it for a while, and then it stops to become trending. As I said, you end up with a cabinet full of things. But what does your personality actually gain from it? Do you become a better person? Is this like a long-lasting change? Is it actually the character that you want to develop? So it's quite a complex process. The fact that one, you need to deal with understanding your own self in the way that you were socialized and brought up. And secondly, just dealing with the fact that you're constantly also being influenced on social media to adopt trends. Let's take a step back and talk about authenticity and what does it actually mean to be authentic. Authenticity in short means that the activities you do in your life, the way you present yourself to the outside world, aligns with how you actually feel from the inside. For example, if you are someone that is very creative or you feel very creative on your own and you really like to paint or draw, for example, and you really want this to be your daytime job, but instead you settled for what your parents thought was the thing for you. You studied medicine, now you're a doctor. Every time you go to work, you do enjoy helping patients, but at the same time, you kind of hate it because you actually wish to be a painter. This is an example of what it means to be inauthentic. Doing something so your day-to-day job is not aligned with actually what you know already that you want to be doing. Another example is if you are a woman that's developing herself, you're building your character, and you decided for yourself, I do not want to be a part of gossiping or talking about people behind their back, but your group of friends do that. And when you're with them, instead of standing up for yourself, you go along with the group and you do participate in these activities. Deep down, you feel bad about it, but you still choose to do it because you're just not there yet to be your authentic self around your friends. And obviously, the other thing that we were talking about, if you're always mindlessly adopting trends without actually thinking about how it serves you, this is also partly being inauthentic. So at our baseline, we already have quite some work to do to really understand who we are at our core, considering the fact that we have been heavily influenced by the people that brought us up. However, where is this incentive supposed to come from? If you think about it, the way that we are brought up and taught about what it means to be successful, a lot of it is related to the material things that you possess in this world. Very little of it is actually focused on your emotional well-being, how you feel about yourself from the inside. So where is this incentive supposed to come from that we feel like we should go on a self-exploration journey to get more in touch with our authentic self? So now that I ranted about all of this, let's talk about the solution for both understanding ourselves better, but also to kind of move to a position where we are more authentic in the world and less influenced by other people. So I really went through it when it comes to being inauthentic. I did that for a really long time. When I first started to be more active on social media, I wasn't able to be myself. And then I realized that I'm always putting myself in a box that someone else came up with. I would always use their words. I would always take pictures in a certain way because I saw someone did it. I would always try to mimic what I saw online instead of actually taking a step back and really understanding myself and who am I and how do I want to show up. This question, it was really difficult for me to answer because I just didn't know who I was. There was so much of me that I would try to hide away from people because either I felt ashamed of it or I was told that this is not the way that I should be. If I can give a very concrete example, I always try to hide my creativity because it just feels like not safe. And for me, safety, security is something that I was really taught as a kid that I should be striving for. My parents put a lot of focus on my academic achievement, which I also automatically started doing. And for me, this was the measure of success. However, as I grew older, I started to realize that this is not only it for me. I am not satisfied with only doing well at my job. I will be satisfied as well if I am able to embark on my creative endeavors and if I'm able to just be myself unapologetically, whether it means to sit with uncomfortable feelings and express uncomfortable feelings that also my parents could read about. So there was a lot of this that I had to learn to deal with. So I can tell you that for everyone, the process of learning to be authentic is really different. The first question that you should always ask yourself is why? Why are you inauthentic? Are you trying to hide a certain part of yourself? What is it that you were taught by your parents or the people that brought you up about what it means to be authentic, what behavior you should be ashamed of? So that is a really important question because it really shows us that the way that we are brought up and socialized has such a big influence on how we show up in the real world. Self-awareness is super important. And the way that I was able to cultivate that was really by paying attention to my feelings. So if I felt eager to do something, but I immediately shut it down, then I felt bad, then I would really feel it like, oh my God, I just felt really excited. Now I feel bad. Why am I shutting that down? So it's really about asking yourself this question continuously until you are able to get to that answer. And this can take its time, but I think self-awareness is a really great place to start. And just being more in touch with yourself, understanding your departure point is such a powerful tool to navigate authenticity. The other part is to not only be in touch with the reasons why you're not able to be authentic, but to also get more in touch with the things that you enjoy doing. Because then you know, these are the things that I actually really enjoy doing. So I should try to do more of that, which means that I will be more authentic. So both feelings are important to get in touch with. And for the other one, again, self-awareness is super important. If I'm writing an essay, or if I'm reading a complex theory, this is really me examples, and I feel excited about it, then I know, oh my God, this is why I feel excited about it, because actually I really enjoy doing it. So I should do more of that. And the more of you do of that, you should just trust yourself that you will find your way through being authentic and finding the things that you really like. So those two things are really important. The other thing that really helped me is to understand what are the situations that trigger me to be inauthentic. Is it when I have to show up on social media Is it when I have to perform at work? Is it when I'm having a conflict with a friend of mine? Like, what is the situation? Because those situations reveal so much to you. If you look at all those situations in which you felt inauthentic, then you can reason back and you can find a pattern. There is always a pattern in the way that we act, whether it's about the emotion that we felt or the interaction that we had or the people that were involved. Like, then you can really find, like, why is it that you're being that way? In my experience, it's always traced back to the way you were brought up, the things that your parents said about other people around you that you thought, I don't want to be that way because I don't want to disappoint my parents. Just like sit a bit and think about it. And for the social media things about being constantly influenced, I think that once you get to a point where you feel more comfortable in who you are and you know the things that you like and the things that you don't like, you're able to better deal with it when there's like a lot of trends coming online, because then you also always ask yourself, is this something that's aligned with who I am? Would adopting this trend actually fit into something that I was already doing, that it could potentially help me, that I could take inspiration from? So you can see that by doing the first, it kind of reframes this whole thing about constantly trying to keep up with trends, because you're no longer mindlessly adopting trends. Now you know who you are, you know what things align with you and what things don't. And you can also be more aware by having that knowledge about, are these trends actually helping me out, yes or no? Do I really need to buy a depuffer, a journal, a water bottle? Do I really need to buy all of these things to fulfill my need if I'm already able to connect with myself and be more authentic already? So I think that's very important. And the other thing is to like kind of really practice this in the moment. As soon as you become aware that something is trending, to not mindlessly adopt it, but to first stop and ask yourself, why do I feel the need to adopt this right now? Do I feel urgency? Do I feel like this is gonna help me belong more? Do I feel like this is the one thing I need to feel happier? So those are really like some important questions to ask yourself. And then also by following up and saying, is consuming this the only way for me to get access to that feeling? Because I can promise you it's not. If you adopt a trend because you say, oh, I want to belong, there are different ways to foster belonging. For example, you can call your friend and you can tell your friend, I'm really struggling with this. Can you relate? Maybe they don't, maybe they do, probably they do. And then you can talk with them about it. And then in that way, you're also kind of connecting with your friend. And this also meets your need for belonging, because now you belong to the group that doesn't want to mindlessly adopt trends. So this is just one example of something that you can do when you feel that you are feeling that rush to mindlessly adopt a trend. I always ask myself, if these trends didn't exist, what would I be doing right now? My answer is always, I would be reading a book. If I wasn't scrolling on social media, I would be reading a book. So when that comes up, I just close it down, I go find my book, and I read it. So I'm not saying that you also have to read books. What I'm saying is to ask yourself the question of, if this wasn't here, if I wasn't consuming this right now, what is that I would be doing? So I kind of feel like I ranted a little bit in this video, but I'm just really passionate about this topic because I struggled with it for such a long time, and now I'm finally at a point where I feel more confident in who I am as a person, and I'm very eager and I'm very happy to share this with other people. So I really hope that this video was informative for you, and I'm very curious also to hear if other people struggle with this or if it's just me that I'm like, you know. Well, in any case, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for watching, and I really hope that I see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye.